Play hard and love big radio podcast. Inspiration on your station with the show broadcast. You don't want to miss it. You gotta listen. Good vibes and stories for you to go the distance. Bringing inspiration, stories that shine. Helping you connect heart and mind aligned. Live your best life, lift up and soar. Fueled by kumquat energy, we give you more. Play hard and love big.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to Play Hard and Love Big Radio. My name is Nick Clark, and I'm your host for today's show. Play Hard and Love Big Radio is the official podcast of Spotted Dog Yoga and Stand-Up Paddleboard Company based out of Folsom, California. At Play Hard and Love Big Radio, we're dedicated to bringing you the inspirational people and their stories to help you connect to your center so that you can go out and live your most purposeful and passionate life. Play Hard and Love Big Radio is pumped to have Kumquat Energy as a sponsor of our show this year. Kumquat Energy and hydration drinks are available at Spotted Dog Yoga. You can get in and get your healthy energy and hydration on with Kumquat Energy. Today we have a great guest, Greg Grogan with the Overwatch Collective. What's up, Greg? Welcome to Play Hard and Love Big Radio.
Not much. I appreciate you having me on, Nick. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it, man. You're getting to be pretty good at these podcasts. You're doing a lot of them, huh?
Trying to, yeah. Once I moved from California to Louisiana, I took a break, and then now I'm picking them back up, dropping one every Friday, and things are going good.
That's really good. Which part of California were you living in?
Close to you, San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay, and then where in Louisiana are you now?
Lafayette.
Lafayette. How did you like the shift into Lafayette?
I really enjoy it. The Southern hospitality here is like no other. The food is amazing. I can no longer see my abs. You know, the waistline's starting to get a little tight, but the food out here is great. The people are great. Fiance is great. Everything's going good.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Okay, so if you're going to pick some specific dish that's expanding your waistline, which one is it?
Crawfish.
Crawfish gumbo pie on the bayou.
Oh yeah, there you go. You got it.
What is that song? Is there a song like that?
It sounds like it. You got to come out here and sing it for everybody.
Not a chance, man. I'll come eat food and listen to music.
Love that.
But I don't know if you get me singing or anything like that. Well, we certainly appreciate what you're up to, and I'm super excited to get into the Overwatch Collective. But first, would you just tell us a little bit about your background and your story, Greg?
Yeah, of course. So, like I said, my name's Greg Grogan. I'm born and raised in California, the Bay Area, into a big first responder and military family. Joined the United States Marine Corps when I was 18, did 7.5 years there at an infantry reserve unit, did one deployment overseas, nothing crazy at all, no combat. I went to Japan, ate all the sushi, drank all the sake, saw the sights. It was fantastic. Joined the police department, one city south of San Francisco, was there for 10 years. After a year break in service after the Marine Corps, I joined the United States Coast Guard Reserves, where I've been in for 5 years now. And then, met my fiance, moved out to Louisiana, switched police departments, switched military units. And that's kind of the quick down and dirty.
Yeah, and when you switch departments, when you moved from California to Louisiana, was there a lot that you had to adapt in order to develop into that?
Not too much. Obviously, like once you know how to do the job, you can kind of do it anywhere. It's just learning the state statutes, the rules of the road, how Louisiana police officers do things, which is a little different than out in California, you know. So, but no, I did a quick 2-week legal course with the police academy, passed that test barely. I'm not that smart. Did 2 weeks of firearms training, which was great, and then went straight into like the field training process.
Right on. You know, it kind of reminds me, and I'm not really proud to say it, but when we moved from California to Idaho, as we run our business from Idaho, but it's in California. When we moved here, I was the first one of the family to go and take the driver's license test, you know, and I was like pretty confident, you know, like I've been driving my whole life, no big deal. Didn't look at the rules of the road, didn't do any of that stuff. I got there. I remembered the woman at the desk. She's like, hey, did you study up? Did you look into any of the rules or anything? I'm like, I got it. No problem. And believe it or not, I failed the test. Couldn't believe it. I was surprised, but anyway, that was kind of interesting. And so then I got back home and told my wife and the in-laws and whatnot. Of course, they studied and they all passed it with flying colors.
Yeah, you were the test dummy for sure. When I came out to Louisiana, I got my license and they didn't make me take a test at all. And I have a motorcycle endorsement because I was a motorcycle officer in California, and they were like, "Do you want to keep your motorcycle endorsement?" I'm like, "Yeah." Do I have to take a test? They're like, "No." I'm like, "Then yes, I do."
Then yes, I do. But then, are you a motorcycle officer in Louisiana or no?
No, Nick, I am fresh meat out here. I literally just had my first 2 nights of graveyard shift on my own, so um, I'm brand new here.
Gotcha, man. So you had to start up all again. Well, good for you. Congratulations on the move. And the fiance. What's your fiance's name?
Her name's Robin.
Robin. What do you love about Robin, man?
Oh God, how long do we have?
I mean, what don't you love about Robin?
That's a shorter list. Yeah, definitely. No, she's great. So she's actually she's a therapist, and she specializes in first responder and veterans across the country. And she actually provides free therapy for any veterans in the country. And she's seen so many veterans that she's over like $50,000 in free therapy for the veteran community. And she's well known out in Louisiana and takes all this training. And she's a firm believer that you need to be competent and well trained to work with our first responder military community. So, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Robin, I hopefully I get a chance to meet her someday. And talking about her is a perfect segue into the Overwatch Collective. Tell us a little bit, Greg, about how that started and how it's evolved over the last few years.
Yeah, so the Overwatch Collective was started in June of 2021 by myself and my buddy Jesse Coulter. Jesse was in the United States Marine Corps for 4 years, and now he's in the Coast Guard Reserves, currently on active duty orders at the Special Missions Training Center in North Carolina in Camp Lejeune. So after several years in the military for both of us, and then me as a police officer, we have experienced the unfortunate loss of suicide in our community. So we decided during COVID, like everybody else, to start a podcast, decided to call it the Overwatch Collective. And the whole goal was to have people from the first responder and military community on to talk about the stigma of mental health, the lack of resources, why we're seeing so many divorces, substance misuse, so many suicides. So did about 20, 30 episodes, and we heard nothing but positive feedback. We received quite a bit of donations, and we were like, all right, what do we do with this money? This is great. So we decided to turn it into a 501c3 nonprofit with the intent to raise funds, to use those funds to pay for therapy sessions for our first responder and military community.
Yeah, and at this point in time now, 4 years later, how many therapists across the country are you working with?
Yeah, and I don't have the exact number off the top of my head. We currently are going through a revetting process, which we're going to do every year just to ensure that our contracted therapists are legit, they're well trained, and then through that year period, get any training certifications that they recently got to make sure that they're a good fit for our community. So I'm going to go ahead and say we have over 100 across the country. And we're currently covered in 48 states. Tomorrow I have a meeting with a New Mexico therapist. So hopefully we can add her, and that'll be 49 states that we have covered.
Wow, man, that's phenomenal. So how does the whole program work? How does somebody get involved with one of your therapists?
Like if they want to come to therapy through us?
Yeah, if they want to get involved, like they have some mental health stuff they want to work through, and they want to work through it with the Overwatch Collective.
Yeah, of course. So our criteria since we started opening back up in May 1, 2025, literally. So we had to change our criteria around a little bit to focus on the first responder or service member that wants to work on job-related trauma. When we first became a 501c3 nonprofit, we wanted to help everybody. We wanted to increase our numbers for fundraising purposes, grants, donations. And we didn't really have a criteria. It was kind of like if you were a service member or first responder, you're good. We'll pay for your therapy. Well, after spending a lot of money, we decided to take a pause when we hit like $25,000 in the bank. We're like, hey, we need to focus on the job related trauma because fundraising is difficult, especially nowadays. Grants are tough, and we all have full time jobs. So, as of now, we will fund therapy sessions for any active or retired first responder or service member that wants to work on job related trauma, in addition to a family member, spouse, significant other who has lost a first responder or service member to suicide. And we make it super simple. Our community is not the brightest tools in the shed. So you go to the overwatchcollective.com. You have a list of all of our contracted therapists on there. You click on whatever state you're in. They pop up. You pick one. You go to our financial assistance form, show verification that you're a first responder or service member, type in why you need financial assistance, submit the form. We get back to you as soon as possible, and then we'll connect you with that therapist while maintaining complete confidentiality. And then we fund 100% of the cost for the first 3 therapy sessions, and then we drop into a tiered system after that.
Wow, that's amazing. And when someone goes through this process, is there some feedback that you're getting from the therapist or from the participants that helps you understand how effective the program is?
Yes, there is. And so that's a 2-pronged question. I'll start with the first part. So with the therapist, a lot of therapists that we contract with also work with first responders and veterans in the community, and he or she may be contracted through the VA or some of the employment assistance programs for our first responder community. And with that, you have to deal with insurance, you have to deal with the stigma, you have to worry about paying out of pocket and then get reimbursed. And if they go through the Overwatch Collective, the therapist, it's a seamless process where the therapist just bills the Overwatch Collective for the therapy sessions. We have a contract with the therapist, and we communicate via email if the person that they're working with needs further sessions and wants to continue to the next tier. We get a continuation request, the reasoning behind it, which is very vague. We're very big on HIPAA. We don't need to know everything, but we do need a brief summary of why he or she needs to continue therapy. And then the board of director votes on it. We approve. And then they're off to the races to schedule their next sessions. So that's the therapist side. And then for the client, quote unquote, they don't really have to go through insurance with us. We avoid insurance. We don't go through the VA. We don't go through the employment assistance program. And having done the proactive work to search and find culturally competent therapists for our community and then contracting with them, we make it the easiest process we can to get them, whether it's virtual or sitting across from the therapist, to work on whatever they need to work on.
Yeah. What are you hearing or from people who've gone through your program? What kind of life shifts have they had from this?
We have not heard one negative comment about the process. So as of now, we've connected 262 people in our community to our therapists since August of 2022. And it's smooth, it's confidential. We make it pretty easy for people to get in touch with our therapists and actually get into the sessions. And the rewarding part for the entire board of directors, who are full voluntary status as of now and not getting paid, is when a quote unquote client comes to us, goes through our program, and he or she is like, hey, if it wasn't for the Overwatch Collective, I don't know if I ever would have gone to therapy, or I don't know if I'd even be alive right now because I was having some severe suicidal ideation. So those are the stories that give you the chills, and you're like, all right, all the admin stuff, which isn't the fun part to do, it all pays off.
Yeah, I mean, and I can see how just making it simple for people to get involved and to get therapy just breaks down the barriers and just allows people to open the door. It's I mean, it's a completely different thing in some ways, but it reminds me of like yoga. Right? Yoga for some people is a little bit intimidating. It's an unknown factor. something that they know can help them physically, and some people even know that how much it can help them mentally, right? But there's like a barrier to entry that I feel like has to be broken down through communication or ease of enrollment, similar to what you're talking about with the Overwatch Collective. If you can make it easy for people to get involved, to put their information in and get some help, then it can really change lives. And I hear that that's happening for you.
No, I was just saying, yeah, it is. And it's, unfortunately, with the first responder and military community specifically, there is a big stigma of reaching out for help. And, you have all these firefighters, police officers, service members that a lot of our community looks up to, and they have like the big S for Superman on the chest, and they're supposed to be the big strong ones that never have any problems, and they're supposed to be the A-type personality, the helpers. Well, a big part of the reason why we're seeing so many suicides is because of the lack of confidentiality, the repercussions that come along with it. So we're just grateful and excited that we've created a process to reduce that stigma completely.
I get it. So when you're saying stigma, so the S on their chest, we look at it as like Superman, but maybe the S could stand for stigma. There's this stigma that they have to be strong, that they have to be tough. They just have to kind of grin and bear it and deal with it. Is that the stigma?
Yeah, it is. And taking away the whole first responder and military community and just talking about us as individuals, right? Me and
Yeah.
you, we're males, right? If we have a family, we have kids, we're supposed to be the providers. We're supposed to be the men of the house, fixing things, taking care of the family, even when things get tough, right? So that makes it difficult to maybe say, hey, I need help, or hey, I can't do this. Because in our heads, the way that we work in our brains, we're like, I can't ask for help. I can do this. But sometimes you actually do need help. Well, you look at our first responder military community, and I would say it's 3-4 times as bad as that, where we don't even want to say, like, hey, that call for service that we went on, that vehicle fatality, that really affected me, guys. And I would love to take 10 minutes to do some yoga, to focus on some breathing techniques before I go to my next call for service. That doesn't happen.
Mm. And traditionally in a first responder lifestyle, has it been traditional for them to turn to like drugs and alcohol in that scene?
Yeah, correct. And this is where the military and the first responder community get along so well, unfortunately, in this manner. But yeah, so they call it choir practice, where after shift on your Friday, you would get together with the team and you'd go to a restaurant, or like what we used to do, we'd call it the cave. It was a parking lot underground, and you would just go back up the trucks, pop the tailgates down, have a few drinks with the team, and then everybody would drive home. Um, but yeah, substance misuse, specifically alcohol, is very common amongst, I think, everybody in this entire world, because it's so easily accessible. It numbs the pain for a little bit. It makes you feel different in an instant. But the body always keeps the score. You cannot forget the unfortunate vehicle fatality. You can't forget that mission. You're going to wake up with a hangover. It's not healthy. It's expensive. And then you start going down the slippery slope if you start misusing alcohol.
Yeah, it's really like just putting a Band-Aid on it, that the more Band-Aids you put on, the deeper and deeper it goes into your body and the harder it is to pull out, right? And so in your experience, Greg, in the military and being in the police force and whatnot, what is your experience of dealing with mental health?
Yeah. So I'll start with the military. Like I said, my biggest stressor was I went to Japan in the Marine Corps, and I was worried about which sushi place I was going to go to and eat. That was my biggest stressor.
Yeah.
I didn't really have to deal with any combat. I didn't have to deal with too many stressors with my time in the Marine Corps. Kind of same thing with the Coast Guard. I also did a deployment overseas there, but nothing combat related in the Coast Guard. The first responder side of things, I used to be like I mentioned before, a motorcycle officer. So I did all the accident reconstructions and worked all the vehicle fatality collisions. In addition to the normal calls for service, where you have natural deaths, or you have suicide via gunshot wounds, suicide via hanging, homicide scenes, you have child abuse cases, terrible domestic abuse cases. where it's just not the normal stuff that we should be seeing, right? Like you should never see somebody get involved in a motorcycle collision, their helmet and their shoes flying off, and you pull up on scene and there's blood dripping down the street into the curb, down a drain. And I can picture that right now. And you can go on and on, right? Like we should never be able to see that. And that's why like our community is so exposed to these traumatic and critical incidents where we primarily need to be more proactive in working on our mental health to be able to ensure that we can last a 25 or 30-year career and then enjoy a nice, happy retirement. But that's not the case. So that's what we're trying to avoid. So every department has the employment assistant program where they can go through the employment assistant program. They can get connected to a contracted therapist with that department. One of the problems with that is whether it's a fire department or police department, one of the big concerns is money and funding all the time, right?
Right.
Where if you are going to contract with a culturally competent, a really well trained professional therapist that would be the best fit for your officers, your firefighters, he or she may cost almost $200 for a 50-minute session, right? Where you get somebody that's okay, he or she may be $100 an hour. So one of the problems with that is they contract with the cheaper therapist because of money when he or she is not ultimately the best trained to work with our community. And like when I was in Northern California, they contracted with Kaiser. No first responder or service member should go to a Kaiser therapist because, with all due respect, they're not properly trained to work with our community that sees all these critical incidents and traumatic events. Where we've heard several stories where you finally have a first responder that takes that big step and says, yes, I need help. They go to a therapist that's not well trained and they sit down on the couch across from him or her and they share their story or their call for service that they want to work on. And the therapist is like eyes open, like that emoji. And they're like, that's what you see? Or like, that's what you deal with? So then we just lost that first responder to therapy. Here she's like, wow, I really am messed up. I'm out. I was told therapy was this great thing, but this therapist was crying. I can't go back to this therapist. So,
Huh.
and then they also do have peer support teams and groups within agencies. Obviously, it is with your peers. So sometimes there still is hesitation with reaching out for them. Sometimes it does feel like a check in the box for some agencies just to say that they have a peer support team, and some are good. So it kind of just depends. But there are definitely some resources out there. It's just we're still seeing people come through our nonprofit organization that don't trust the confidentiality and the effectiveness of the peer support group or the employment assistance program. So we're full steam ahead with what we're doing.
And the therapists that are trained and working with first responders and military, do you see that some of them, or quite a few of them, are actually ex-military or ex-police force or ex-fire?
Yeah, good question. So there are definitely some that we have contracted, and it's a huge benefit when they have prior firsthand experience, right? Like if I were to say, hey, I was a police officer for 10 years, I got out, now I became a therapist, I know exactly firsthand what it's like to be a police officer. That alone, though, is not enough to consider yourself a well trained, culturally competent therapist, in my opinion. It's one thing to have the
Sure.
experience, but you need to learn about trauma training, how to diagnose, what to do, and how to get that person the help. So, a lot of times we do here in our community where it's like, hey, I was a prior first responder, prior service member. Now I could be a therapist, and you don't have any training to back that up. Yes, you have the experience, but you also need to have the training that goes along with it. So it's definitely a double win for us when we contract a therapist that was a prior service member or first responder that also is legit with their training and has put in a lot of time and effort and can show us all his or her certificates. We're like, hey, that's great.
Yeah, and maybe I missed this, Greg, too. But for you, have you done quite a bit of therapy?
I have personally, yeah. Not like too much, but I actually went through the Coast Guard, their Coast Guard support
Yeah.
program,
Yeah.
and I was able to get connected to a therapist, and uh, it wasn't really the best experience for me, but it was still good to be able to talk about stuff, get stuff off the chest, and get a second opinion. And honestly, the nice thing about having a therapist too is they call you out on your shit sometimes.
It's kind of like my wife. She calls me out of my shit all the time. Probably your fiance does that too, huh?
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
Yeah, I know Robin probably is good at that. Yeah, Katie calls me out of my shit, and it makes me a better person, you know.
Mm.
I'm curious then, like therapy and whatnot. I mean, there's a lot of questions being asked, I'm sure, and there's the space to share for you and the experiences you've seen, the traumatic experiences. Has sharing your story, like sharing the instances, like the motorcycle rider you were talking about, has that been healing for you to just put it in words and share it into a space?
Yeah, and I do think it is beneficial to be able to talk about these things, right? So like when you're in a safe place and you're able to talk about it, the more and more you do, the more comfortable you get with it. And it kind of feels good to talk about, you know. Obviously, if you're having nightmares and you're struggling thinking about it, and when it comes up, you're like, okay, I got to get this thought out of my head, and I got to turn to alcohol, or I got to hit my head against the wall, or I can't sleep, whatever. You need to go and work on that. But for me, I don't really have any of those critical incidents where I need to work on them as of now.
Yeah.
It could always come up later. Um, but yeah, I always enjoy talking about it. And I think that's one of the great things about our podcast as well, is when we have first responders or service members that come on that are vulnerable and open about talking about their critical incident, a lot of the times after they're like, wow, that felt great to talk about. It felt like a therapy session. They're exhausted. But ultimately, the more and more you talk about it with people that are here to help and it's for a positive reason, then it's a good thing.
Yeah, I like the podcast forum in that sense too, as a way to really express myself and to listen and understand different perspectives of where other people are coming from. It's been really, for me, it's been really healing to be able to do that. So I can see that that can be very healing for anybody. I how many podcast episodes have you guys done now?
So today's was 157.
Damn, that's impressive, man. Good. How long do you run a podcast for? Like an hour? It kind of just depends on how much time you need.
Yeah, it just depends. I have come to learn that sometimes over like an hour and a half or 2 hours, people start to lose interest.
How does the lifestyle of a first responder or military and those experiences that they've had, how does that impact the family?
I actually just talked about this on the last podcast. So I'll start with the military side of things because that's what we focused on in this last episode. So with the military, kind of depending on the job that you do and if you're active duty or reserve, and if you're active duty, you're stationed wherever they need you, and your family's coming along with you. And if you
Mm.
do a permanent change of station 2 years in, you're packing everything up and you're relocating. You could be deployed for X amount of months. You're away from your family. You're missing the birth of children. You're missing birthdays, weddings, important events, etc. And some of the times you can't say where you're at, right? You have like the operational security. You can't always talk on the phone. You're in different time zones. That's why we see a high divorce rate in the veteran community, a high cheating rate, substance misuse, and then the first responder side. It's difficult because whether you're a firefighter, dispatcher, EMT, police officer, right? You're working these long shifts and you're busy. You can't fully step away and be like, oh, I need a 30-minute break to go call my spouse or significant other and really check in. So
Mm.
um, it's definitely difficult, and sometimes you do bring these calls home to the family where you could come home and be different in front of the kids, and the kids recognize that something's wrong with mommy or daddy.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and it's obvious, it's dangerous too, right? All these jobs are dangerous, so it kind of just depends on the person and the relationship that you have with your spouse or significant other. But it's I mean, we have a very high divorce rate in both the first responder and military community. So there's a lack of training with communication, taking care of yourself and your spouse, and prioritizing you ultimately, in my opinion, because a lot of people are young and they think that the job is the greatest thing in the world. And they get on so many collateral assignments, and the department wants more and more out of them. And the more you put into the department, the the more you're taking away from time from yourself and your family. So there's some pros and cons to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think about Katie, my wife, like I share everything with her. And so, and she's a soundboard, she's a safe space for me to do that. But also, I'm a yoga teacher, man. I'm not out seeing the things that first responders are seeing on the daily basis, or I haven't seen what people in the military have seen on the daily basis. So I don't know how comfortable I would be bringing that into my house, or maybe, it's like, I don't want to put that on I wouldn't want to put that on someone. And so I can see that's the stigma too. It's like, hey, I just want to get done with my shift, go home, kick back, step away from everything, and not talk about it or bring it into everybody else's life. That's kind of what comes up for me when we're talking about this, is like, I feel like that there could be a serious lack of communication within the family dynamic.
Yeah, 100%. And very good point, because there are a lot of times where you'll have a first responder come home, and the spouse or significant other's like, hey, how was your shift? And you're like, oh, it was great, because you don't want to burden them with the unfortunate calls that you went on. So a lot of the times it'll be like, oh, it was good and it was fine, whatever. But little did they know they were on a crash and they had to extract some deceased person with fire out of a vehicle and place him or her on an ambulance, and then they just left on a call, right? So a lot of people think that that's like, hey, I'm protecting my family, they don't need to hear all of this, which is great and it's noble. But then when you start to have some problems with that, and these calls build up and you start to change, that's when your family starts noticing, your spouse, significant other starts noticing, and then that could create some tension. So, and also there's such a lack of training and resources for these spouses and significant others of our first responder community, that they don't really get any education on what actually goes out on the street, or how we may be feeling of, hey, I just want to protect you, so I'm not going to tell you. So it's almost like we're setting up our community for failure sometimes.
I can see that. And you say the community, setting the community up for failure, because I was talking about like family, the nuclear family and whatnot, but also like friends of people who are impacted, right? And say you're a friend of someone, or you're a family member of someone who's in the service or is a first responder. What is it that we can look for in someone who has suicidal tendencies, or is like, is having a hard time?
Yeah, and there's a list, right? And it's burnout from working a lot, it's trying to sell items or give things away, it's um the random outbursts, the irritability, just anything you kind of notice that's acting different, or they're being extra risky, they're kind of being isolated. And that goes for everybody, right? It doesn't matter about the first responder and military community right now. Like,
Sure.
no matter if you're two teachers, right, and you notice something's wrong, like, I really do think we have to make it a priority nowadays to actually genuinely check in on people and be like, Nick, are you doing okay? I've noticed some signs, or you're not acting like yourself. Like, is everything okay? You can talk to me, because outside of the first responder and military community, there's still suicides that occur all the time. And maybe there are some missed signs that, if they were addressed, that could have prohibited, or that could have stopped that suicide from happening.
Such a good point, man. I mean, in this day and age, it's so interesting, right? Because we have the ability to connect and communicate through FaceTime, through Zoom, through Riverside, through telephone and whatnot. Yet it's in this age where we're so connected, it almost feels like that we're not as connected as we were before. within our community, just like slowing down and having a conversation with our neighbor or whatever.
Yeah, there's definitely, with all the technology that we have, the TV, everybody's always on their phone. I think we're definitely seeing a decrease in like human connection and actually talking, which is a problem in my opinion.
Yeah, me too. What do you think? Also, what do you think about the value of nature and getting outside as far as mental health is concerned, Greg?
I think it's great. So I used to live in Half Moon Bay, California, which is right near the water, and I think it's scientifically proven that if you're by the water, that helps you like decrease your stress and it's better for you. Obviously, getting out in the sunshine. Um, but yeah, I've heard it countless times. Hey, if you can go take a 30-minute walk a day, or if you can go sit by the water, close your eyes, listen to the waves, it's naturally peaceful and calming for you. And people that are just able to go out and enjoy a 30-minute walk and get outside and get some vitamin D, it's it's a huge benefit to them.
What are your favorite outdoor activities?
So I grew up riding dirt bikes.
Nice.
Yeah, I sold my bike before moving out to Louisiana. Maybe one day I'll get back on a bike again, but that was my favorite outdoor activity growing up, and going out with friends to the track and just having fun, riding, doing dumb stuff, yelling at each other, not taking it too seriously. I was never like professional or anything crazy, but um, definitely go out, have some fun, and you just put the phone away. You kind of forget about everything else, and you just enjoy 5-6 hours with some of your buddies. You go get lunch after, and then head home. So that was my activity.
Katie's cousin passed away from pancreatic cancer, and we celebrated his life by going on this bike ride that he used to organize called Suck Fest, which was he used to organize it as the very first ride of the season and with the most elevation climb, because it was like, hey, it's bike season and the first ride's going to suck worse than any other one, and there was 18 people showed up to celebrate his life on this specific day, which was really cool. But in that 3-hour ride, I didn't think about anything else except for my body, being with people, being outside. Just like there was a lot of great laughs, a lot of great stories, and I just all of a sudden I was like, oh, I haven't been on my phone at all. It's like so kind of odd and sad in some way that I'm on my phone as much as I am, but yeah, people, community, outdoors, nature, all those things I think are so important for our mental health. So cool. How do we support the Overwatch Collective? How do the community at large support you and your efforts and what you're up to?
Yeah, good question. So I think the big thing is word of mouth and just spreading the word about what we do. If you tell a first responder or service member, like, hey, I listened to this podcast and it was called the Overwatch Collective, you should look it up. They focus on veteran and first responder suicide and getting people connected to therapists while maintaining complete confidentiality and providing financial assistance. Like that usually gets people's ears perked up a little bit. We're like, oh, that's really cool. Like that's needed. That's what we hear a lot. So just word of mouth is the big one. If you have an Instagram, you could follow the Overwatch Collective on Instagram. We do have a free mental health app as well, where we have other podcasts on there for our community that we've personally vetted and added. We have a resources page. You can get the veteran crisis line on there, 9881. You can get connected to some of our therapists on there. There's a social media side of it too, and it's kind of specific for the first responder and veteran community. And then if you know any companies out there or people who donate or sponsor nonprofit or first responder or veteran nonprofits that are doing great work, then please pass the Overwatch Collective their way.
Yeah, you got it. How did you end up getting connected with Shelly Martell, Bruce Martell, and Hearts for Heroes USA?
Yeah. So, and they're amazing. And Bruce is a prior Marine, so we connected right away. And the whole Marine Corps, Semper Fidelis, brother, whole thing.
Yeah.
And then Shelly's amazing too with Hearts for Heroes. And so they're from the Northern Bay Area. I was in the Bay Area, and I don't exactly know how we originally got connected, but they sponsored one of our fundraisers. They came down, brought some of the dogs, and then we've just always been in contact. And we care about the same things. So a lot of the people, just like how we got connected, Nick, was, hey, Greg, you should get connected to this person. He's doing XYZ. And then I'll do the same thing with them and be like, hey, here's a resource for you guys that you should reach out to. So, and that's where the collective comes in, where it's a collective effort to normalize mental health, to get people in our community smiling, to get dogs in front of people and kind of reduce some of the stress.
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's really great. The community at large is working to make the world a better place. And we really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you, Greg, for taking the time to talk to us today on Play Hard and Love Big Radio and to share your story and to share about the Overwatch Collective. I'm inspired to share this with our followers and in hopes that more and more people follow you and help spread the word so that we can touch more lives, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you for the support, the guest appearance coming on, being able to talk about it. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it. Hey, and one other thing I wanted to mention that's something that's very similar with you and I is that we're not fans of snakes.
No, I see a snake and I'm like about face, turning around and running away. I don't mess with snakes whatsoever.
Yeah, man, me too. Even like a little gardener snake, I'm like, no thanks. Don't want anything to do with it. My sons, they're all like picking them up. And I'm like, not me.
Yeah, no, and people give me a hard time about it too. They're like, how are you copping in the military and you'll do XYZ, all this dangerous stuff, and you see a snake and you run away? I'm like, I don't know, but I can't deal with snakes. So no.
Something with snakes, my son, we were on the trail. It was last summer and there was a bull snake. It was a bull snake. No, it was a California king snake, which are good snakes, right? Because they get the rattlesnakes and whatnot, but they're big. And he's like, hey, do you think that I could pick that up? And I was like, absolutely not. That thing is huge. I wouldn't even get close to that thing. Just stay away from that thing. Yeah. Like, what are you thinking, man? It's so funny, but
like 6 foot rule, like COVID.
Yeah, that's the 6 foot rule. Like, yeah, there should always be a 6 foot rule with snakes. Well, we have that in common as well. Great. Hey, if there's anything down the line that I can ever do for you, just let me know. And I've got a few people that might be really good guests for your podcast too. Do you take podcast guest recommendations?
We do, 100%. Yeah. If anybody's listening to this and they want to come on the podcast and share their story or offer some resources or honestly just come on and have some fun. We don't really have any like criteria for coming on the podcast. So just reach out. You can find us, the Overwatch Collective, type it in on literally anything, or my personal email is greg@theoverwatchcollective.com. And just go on there and say, hey, I'm interested on coming on your podcast. This is who I am. This is what I do. And we'll schedule it up.
Heck yeah. I got a couple people that I think you'd really love to talk to. And I think they would really fit and mesh in well with what you're doing, man. So we'll get them sent to you, buddy.
Would love that.
Right on. Hey, everyone, thank you so much for following Play Hard and Love Big Radio and for tuning into this show and sticking on all the way with Greg Grogan. Play Hard and Love Big Radio is the official podcast of Spotted Dog Yoga and stand-up paddleboard company based out of Folsom, California. You can check us out at spotteddogyoga.com. Play Hard and Love Big Radio is dedicated to bringing you the inspirational people and their stories to help you connect to your center so that you go out and you live your most purposeful and passionate life. We are proudly sponsored by Kumquat Energy and Hydration Drinks, who give us that healthy energy and hydration boost. Get into Spotted Dog Yoga and pick up some of that today. Today we had the pleasure to host Greg Grogan from the Overwatch Collective. And Greg, we really appreciate you and hope you have an amazing rest of your day, my man.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, brother.